she lived over there, but I can actually answer a lot of questions about stuff on campus and things like that. So.
And I'm just Yonsei, I direct the Center for Global Education. Lindsay, and it's have to leave just after 3:30 if that's okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Then
sorry.
you can go first. If you want to talk about the study abroad process. And
Sure.
everything.
So do I do jazz hands or?
Whatever you like.
Did you get a chance to look at the draft?
Here, if you guys want to look at this beautiful book on soul.
So yeah, so the application is online. We have some brochures here, or e-brochures by, I should say print brochures that have on the back side under Rebecca's profile, the application URL. The application is pretty straightforward. You know, it's really asking for biographical details, emergency contact information. The more time-consuming parts are the personal statement, which is really just a couple paragraphs underscoring why this particular program resonates with your academic and career aspirations. And then there is, if you want to be considered for one, an opportunity to apply for our portfolio of study abroad scholarships. We have about 12 donors that proffer funds every year to defray the cost for all study abroad opportunities. And so it's basically just like a hyperlink you click, and it's an essay prompt that asks you to unpack an intercultural experience you've had in 500 words or less. So that really kind of encompasses the scope of the application. It's pretty straightforward. So that is due October 15th. And the committee will convene shortly after the October 15th deadline for the scholarship decisions. I'll certainly be in contact with Rebecca regarding the status of all applicants to see, whether you make it onto the next round, which I wouldn't worry about. And the scholarship decision should be made probably by October 25th, I'd say. And the program price, it's not on here, we're trying to finalize the budget right now, but it will likely be in the range of $2,800 to $3,200 for the travel components. That includes airfare, round trip, shared accommodations, some meals, travel, health insurance, and in-country excursions. It does not include credit. And so just I think the per credit rate right now is about $1,200 per credit. This is a 3-credit course, so just be cognizant of that. You can see the dates there. They don't interfere with the summer semester at all. I'm trying to think what else I can. Are there any questions so far? Keeping it informal. Yeah, so just in the back side of the faculty bio is where you can apply online. So October 15th is coming pretty quickly. It's less than 2 weeks away. Again, it shouldn't take too long to complete this application. It's pretty straightforward. I will say, I mentioned the price is prospectively around $3,000. If you are a successful candidate for the scholarship, it likely will not cover the entire cost of the program. Just to give you an idea, we have about 12 faculty-led travel courses running next semester, next summer, so we try to be as equitable as possible, as kind of sharing that pie for successful candidates. And so for travel course applicants, usually the range is between $500 and about $2,000 if you're successful. So it could eat into a good chunk of that travel fee. Is there anything else I'm missing?
Oh, could you talk about the payment, like when the payments are due?
Yeah, so so important timeline milestones. October 15th is the deadline to apply. And again, you can apply for the scholarship at that point as well. By late October we'll have decisions made regarding the scholarship candidates. November 6th, and this will all be communicated in emails once you start the application process. November 6th is when we're looking for a $400 deposit to kind of underscore your commitment to the program. And so that $400 will stay in your account, and the remaining balance will be assessed in the summertime. So it's almost like a summer course. I think those invoices are due like mid-May, I want to say, and we will manually register you for this course. You don't go on ARC like you have in the past. I'm not sure if you're first year or not. You don't go on ARC for this course and register. We'll be doing that manually for you. So, and Lindsay's point too. She mentioned Bursar. Because these are really unique opportunities, the Bursar has been great to schedule flexible payment plans. So, we can break out that $3,000 or so and enable you to pay it off over like 6 or 8 months if that's what you like.
As long as you're not graduating.
True.
Any questions about logistics? Okay. Well, I'll talk a little bit about the course itself. So this is a records management course, and traditionally records management is the study or the field of managing records in their current use. So it's a lot of understanding business management, understanding business functions and organizational culture, and also understanding how to manage through best practices records for accountability, for compliance with laws and regulations, and also for business efficiency, and ultimately to get them into the archives if necessary. So what we'll do is we'll take a cross-cultural perspective with this class. We'll look at both North American business culture and best practices in North America, and then we'll also, students will be in class with Yonsei students as well. So we'll take a cross-cultural perspective and look at how this best practices that work here or in one organization may or may not work when applied elsewhere. So we'll look at some international laws as well, including international standards. 15489-1. I can rattle them off. But this class should be of interest to almost any student in the Masters of Library and Information Science program here, because although it's been traditionally taught within the context of archival management, no matter what you end up doing, you are going to be working with some kind of organizational records. So we find that increasingly students end up working as knowledge managers or information managers, or even in a public library system, you end up sometimes the person in charge of managing that institution's records. So this gives you a kind of flip side of what archives do, which is managing records after their current use. You get to find out how the sausage is made. And for those students who don't end up in archives, it will give you a foot in the door to do a lot of management and oversight that you might not otherwise get in some of your other classes.
I think also it's something that, as somebody who is firmly outside of the archives,
Yeah.
the value that I see in some of this, it also helps amazingly with things like searching. If you understand how people have put this stuff together, what
Yeah.
retentions are, what expectations, you know, it really actually helps you be able to identify what you can find, what is perhaps not available, and where to kind of look for these things. So definitely, you don't have to be in one concentration at all to have value from this course.
Absolutely. The other thing I would mention too is that there will be a number of day trips that are part of the program. Some of these are fun. All of them are fun.
Yeah.
Some of them are more fun. But I'm really hoping to organize the entire class to go to Korea's National Archives, which would be a day trip. It's south of Seoul. It's a building that was open in, I believe, 2007, and it is cutting-edge, state-of-the-art archival management. When I lived in Korea for 3 years, and I always felt like the country had one foot in the 15th century and one in the 22nd. So this is the 22nd century in this place. And they have an incredibly robust digital and digitization program. So I want to get in touch with them through our Yonsei contacts and make sure that we get out there to see that. The other is that for those of you who have studied history of the book, the interesting note about Korean culture is that Koreans actually invented movable type about 100 years before Western culture, before the Gutenberg Bible. So I want to take us to the museum, which is a fun trip anyway, but to look at the room where you can actually see and touch and experience that written information management culture prior to Korea actually developing its own language and functions. So it's a neat experience.
And beyond that, there's actually just a lot of neat things to do in Seoul.
So there's some books circulating. Grab one, have a look. These are about 10 years out of date, but they're books that really helped me when I lived in Korea. So my background is that I spent a number of years in the publishing industry, needed a break, went teaching and traveling in Korea, didn't like it, But went back anyway and ended up publishing in Korea. So I spent 1 year teaching and 2 years writing ESL textbooks. And that was a wonderful experience. So I'm happy to go back. This will be my first time going back since 2007. And I know that based on the 3 years I was there, the country is probably a completely different place. It changes so rapidly and so fast. But the Seoul book that's passing around is a great visual document of what the city looks like. And of course, some of the other books are more about language or culture shock, if you will, idioms, things like that. So do you have any questions about the course or about going to Seoul? Are there any concerns or worries or things that you really want to do? Yeah.
Is there work that happens prior to going?
I think so. I think that this all happened very rapidly, so I found out I was going last week and all of a sudden we're talking about it.
Right, okay.
So I have yet to even dig into the curriculum aspect, but my guess is that it will be a hybrid class, much like Lisa has done in the past, where you do some pre-work online like you would any online course here through a Moodle site, and then we'll meet probably 5 times in Korea, and the rest of it will be day trips or international experience.
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca and I have talked about this a little bit, but in general, the idea is not to bring you to another country and never let you see anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it seems a bit much say, yes, you're going to learn all this in Korea. What did you see? The classroom? You know.
Yeah, no, I want to get you out and about. And one of the things about my experience there is that I actually did work in a fairly typical Korean office. So I had a sense for 2 years of how things operated there business-wise, and some of the expectations that are different than they would be in a North American context. So that should help us understand records management in an international capacity, but I also have a lot of stories to tell and a lot of words of caution to share. So I think that we'll have some fun doing this, and it doesn't have to be all business.
I know you're still working on developing the course, but what kind of projects do you anticipate, like group work versus researching reports?
Yeah, this is the thing. The course right now is traditionally taught using a series of case studies and working in either pairs or groups. And so you're assigned to a particular organizational type, whether it's a hospital or a college or a small business, and you actually work within that case study to develop a records program and eventually a policy that you then train people on. That's the final project. So I have to revisit those because I'm not sure that those case studies will be doable within an international context, and so bear with me because there probably will be some group work, but the work that we do leading up to going to the class will probably be independent.
How big are the groups that usually go on a Korea trip?
Well, it actually has varied from year to year. In the 3 times that I've gone, we had, I think it was 8, 3, and 11. And then, because we used to go every year, and so when I went in 2012, that's when we had the 8. And then the next year they had a much larger group. I think they were in the teens somewhere. But that was 2 classes, actually. It was for 2 classes. And then the next year it was 3. And then that's when they started coming here, when the students from Yonsei started coming here. And then in 2016 we had 11 students. And when you're there, you'll stay in the MUOC dorms, which are dorms actually on the campus. And they are actually gender defined. I was going to say they're co-ed in the sense that one floor is girls, one floor is boys, but you do not go on the floor of the opposite gender. And no question with that. Be prepared to walk and be prepared to deal with hills. I'm not saying that to scare you. That's the reality of Seoul.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to San Francisco, very similar terrain. Very, very kind of similar. Just, you think that you can find a flat part? No. You need to get
So I was
somewhere, it's
saying
up and down.
yesterday, or the last session, I lived on a mountain in an area called Itaewon, which is Little America. It's really close to the American military base. And I used to walk horizontally up the hill, like that's how steep it was to try and get that headway up. And often coming home from an event or a bar or club, let's be honest, karaoke, taxis would not drive up my hill because it was too steep for them. So I believe the dorms are at the top of the hill of Yonsei.
Yeah, they are.
So,
And Monday through Friday, there is a shuttle that will go up. But on the weekends, this time of year, on the weekends, it doesn't run. And again, do not let this be a deciding factor. It's just a good thing to actually be aware of. That, you know, if you decide to do this, you might just, you know, practice hiking hills before you head over there. You know, getting around, you can take cabs and stuff, but in the entire time, in all 3 times that I've gone there, I only took cabs, I want to say 3 times, and twice it was simply trying to get to one of the site visits easier, trying to get there as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you know, the subway is actually excellent.
yeah, the
And-
subway system's great.
So much nicer than Boston's.
It's 22nd century.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the cost of like in food and living and things?
Everything is cheap. You can get a basic meal anywhere from $2 to $10. Lunches, you could certainly grab a kimbap, which is like a sushi roll for, you know, a couple bucks. Dinners, if you want to go out for a barbecue or something like that, you might pay a little bit more. I
But
can't.
even then, they're not that expensive.
No, they're shared
They're
amongst
really
your
not.
table. It's pretty reasonable. So I believe there's a couple meals that are covered in the
There's
travel fund.
The arrival dinner
Yeah.
and the farewell dinner, those are covered.
Right,
And
but
everything
everything
else.
else, you're on.
Although, I have to check on this, I don't know, I don't think breakfast is provided, but you can get breakfast fairly cheaply at the Mohawk dorms.
Yeah.
There's also a cafe downstairs in the building where you'll go for the classes that actually has pretty good food too. So, I mean, and again, none of this is expensive. There's a Paris baguette, I never say it right, baguetterie, that's actually on campus. This is one of the things, at campus, first time I went, huge, I wanna say driving, not parking lot, but huge like road right in the middle. That's gone. They've done a whole bunch of stuff underneath it. There's now, the bookstore moved to this
Okay.
whole underground thing.
I only went to see concerts there. I never
Yeah.
did anything else there. Yonsei always had Western rock concerts.
Yeah.
So I saw Suede there. I saw, I don't know, a couple other British bands, a German band.
But I was gonna say, so I mean, there's actually Starbucks on the campus now.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't. I used to have to go down into Sinchon for it. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, that as far as like the cost of eating, it's not expensive. It just really isn't, and there's so much. I'm always amazed that people in Korea are just not obese. No, and I say this
Because
kind
they
of
walk up the hills, Lisa.
Yeah, I know, but you know,
They're constantly walking.
you go someplace to eat and you order what you think is a light meal, and suddenly your entire table is filled with food, and you're like, what? You know?
I know. But
And
I
it's also good.
ate like royalty when I lived there, and I dropped 40 to 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Because you're just walking constantly. It is a
Yeah.
real able-bodied city, to put it that way. It's
Mhm.
people really move around quite a bit.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and it is, like I said, the subway is excellent, and that it's easy to get from place to place. A lot of, once you get there, it's really just walking around, the things you wanna do. Trying to think of, most of the, like the palaces, most of that is, walking tours yourself, you walk it yourself, and they are not small. I still remember when I went to the first one, the very first time, and we were going on the tour in English. And they're talking about, there were 3,000 people who lived here, and Bethany and I are looking at it going, really? And then you turn the corner, you went, oh, only 3,000 people? I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
It's a huge space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's pictures of some of those palaces in that book.
There were 5 palaces within Seoul. And you can actually I've actually never been to 2 of them, but you can actually get a ticket for all 5. And again, they're not expensive, like to get in, even for the tour, I think it's like maybe $5.
Yeah.
And before the class starts, like anyone that's interested, we're gonna gauge what kind of what people are interested in doing, so we can look into like group tours and day trips and things like that.
Yeah, if, anybody's interested, you decide to do this and you're interested in doing the DMZ, that should be done ahead of time.
Yeah, the tickets sell out, so you have to buy them relatively ahead of time.
And if you decide to go, you can also look and see if there's any K-pop you want to go see, because that pretty much is 24/7.
Yeah. No, it's a hyperculture there.
It is. Although the people are incredibly nice.
Will there be any cultural instruction prior to going? Like my fear is like accidentally like insulting people because
So
they have.
Yeah, that's, Koreans are so over the moon to have foreigners in the country. And they're very happy that if you even attempt to communicate with them at all in Korean. So we could certainly think about doing some pre-class prep around reading Hangul, or you can actually learn how to read Hangul in an afternoon. You may not know what it says, but you can read the language fairly easily. And we could talk about this sort of culture shock. There's a great book there that I found helpful, Korea Culture Shock, When and What to Do. I think the most important key distinction between Western culture and Korean culture is that it is by far stratified by age difference. So you treat elders with utmost respect no matter what. And in fact, the language is created to acknowledge age differences rather than class differences. So you would acknowledge an elderly person with a different word for hello than you would anyone that you'd meet on the street. And for children, they get a whole set of different language too. So it can be, that makes the language more complicated, but it also speaks volumes about the reverence that Koreans have for their elderly populations. Grandparents are very much involved in family life.
And Joe, you do a pre-orientation for all the travel and.
Yeah, not language instruction.
No.
And if it was me, you wouldn't be getting that either, so.
Yeah, during one of the pre-travel meetings, our office will conduct a brief, pre-departure orientation, going over some of the ins and outs of your HCH travel health insurance, emergency action protocol, important numbers. And, during the application stages, we gather all that important information in terms of, emergency contact details and stuff like that. And, I wouldn't worry if for those that are U.S. passport holders, you don't need a visa to enter for the length of time that you'd be there. If you don't have a passport now, or if yours is expiring soon, then you still have plenty of time. And after you're accepted in the program, you'll be asked to kind of log back into that. It's no longer an application, it's more like a registration portal to furnish us with some details regarding a copy of your bio page, your passport. Just again, and in the unlikely event that you lose it overseas, we could help expedite that, working with the local embassy. So, well, I need to get running in just a second. Are there any questions regarding logistics of the application?
So this counts as summer semester, or?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's essentially a summer course, except the bulk of the courses taking place after the summer semester concludes.
Right.
That grade is retroactively applied to the summer semester.
Okay. But so could you use regular scholarships also cover this then?
I believe so, yeah. You talking about institutional aid or?
Yeah, it was merit scholarships.
Yeah, I think those, it depends. I don't want to advise you because I think each student's financial aid package is a little different. So I think it might be a good idea to have an exchange with your financial aid advisor, letting him or her know about this opportunity and what your aid could cover. Yeah. But again, as part of the application process, you can apply to the scholarships. We try to be, we've had a few more than a few SLIS students who get some money every application cycle. So I would definitely encourage you to put in this in. Cool. Well, thanks so much It's nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll leave some of these here. I'll get you, we'll have these printed in color on star cards in the near future.
Do you want it,
I'll
you
take a look at this. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
haven't been in the office yet today.
if you take that out, it should turn over next time.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't need that.
And
Okay.
you, we can talk later about
Okay.
Rwanda.
Oh, yes,
'Cause that
that's a
deadline's
different
coming up soon,
conversation,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I just,
Just talking to our online friends, if there are any further questions, you can email me.
Yep.
But maybe we can turn this off and have a more sort of casual conversation here, but I'm open and available for email, and if I don't have the answer, I know somebody that does.
Or if we don't have the answer, we can figure out who to ask.
Yes, exactly.